My fiancée said I should learn to take a joke after she mocked me in front of her friends. I said, sure. Starting with this one, our engagement. She thought I was kidding. I wasn't. I'm Nate, 29 years old. I've been with my fiancée Clara for 3 years now, and we've been engaged for about 6 months. To say we're in love would be an understatement. I thought I knew her better than anyone, and I genuinely believed that we were a team of partners in everything. But over the last few months, I've started to feel like I'm the only one actually showing up in this relationship. And recently, something happened that made me start questioning everything. It all began on a night that should have been nothing more than a simple dinner with Clara and some of her friends. We've been looking forward to it all week, and honestly, I was excited to finally get out of the house and spend time with people outside of our usual circle. Clara and I had been a bit busy lately, and it felt like we were both running on empty. So when she suggested we meet up with a few of her friends at a local restaurant, I was eager for the distraction. We were seated at a large table in the corner of the restaurant, surrounded by Clara's friends. Now, I know some of them aren't exactly my biggest fans. There's always been a bit of tension between me and a few of Clara's friends, especially Sarah, who can't seem to resist making little jabs at me whenever she gets the chance. But I tried to put that aside for the night. I wanted to have a good time, so I let it go. The conversation started lighthearted. We were talking about travel, work, and the usual stuff people talk about when they haven't seen each other in a while. But then, Clara brought up the wedding plans. This is where things started to take a turn. I've been taking the lead on a lot of the wedding planning. Clara's been swamped with work, and while I know she cares about the details, I didn't want her to feel overwhelmed. I took it upon myself to make sure everything was going smoothly, choosing venues, looking into caterers, organizing timelines. I'd even gone out of my way to make some personal decisions that I thought would be meaningful to both of us, like picking out some vintage-inspired decorations that reflected our relationship. When I mentioned the venue I had in mind and the ideas I'd been working on, I noticed Clara's face tighten for a second. It was subtle, but it was there. Then, she chuckled, and I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. But she continued, and that's when things started to feel off. You know, Nate, she said, leaning back in her chair with a smirk, it's really cute that you think you're handling all of this wedding planning. I mean, bless your heart, but I don't think you have a clue what you're getting yourself into. I tried to laugh it off, assuming she was joking. But the moment she said it, I felt a chill run down my spine. The laughter around the table only made it worse. It wasn't a playful, loving tease, it felt more like she was belittling me. I could see the amused glances exchanged between her friends. I felt my stomach drop as I realized that Clara wasn't just making a joke. She was undermining me. Seriously, she continued, I appreciate that you're trying, but you know I'm the one who's going to be handling the majority of the planning, right? You've probably forgotten half of what we talked about, anyway. Her friends laughed again, and this time, I couldn't just sit there pretending it didn't bother me. Clara's words stung, more than I cared to admit. I tried to remind myself that it was just a joke. Clara has a playful sense of humor, after all. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. It was about the way she had been treating me lately. It was about how, more often than not, I felt like I was being treated like a joke. I decided to take a deep breath and brush it off for the moment, but Clara wasn't done. And you really think the venue you picked is going to work? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Nate, we're talking about a wedding. You can't just throw a random place together and call it good. That was when something inside me snapped. I could feel my face getting hot, my hands clenching at my sides. I wasn't angry, but I was hurt. And I realized I couldn't keep swallowing the insults, pretending everything was fine. I wasn't going to let her keep humiliating me in front of her friends, not anymore. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I think I'm doing just fine. But if you don't think I can handle this, maybe I should stop trying. Clara gave me a look that I couldn't quite place. It was a mix of surprise and annoyance, like she didn't expect me to push back. Her smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Oh, come on, Nate, she said, dismissing me with a wave of her hand. You're taking this way too seriously. It's just a joke. You need to learn how to take one for once. I could feel my chest tighten. I was about to say something, but before I could speak, Sarah, one of Clara's friends, jumped in. Nate, seriously, she said with a laugh, you need to relax. Clara's just messing around. Don't take it so personally. That was the moment I realized something I hadn't fully acknowledged before. It wasn't just Clara who was dismissing me. It was her entire group of friends. They all saw me as the guy who could be teased without consequence, The one who wouldn't stand up for himself because I was too nice or sensitive. And that hurt more than anything else. But I didn't want to make a scene, so I stayed quiet for a few seconds, trying to collect my thoughts. I had to calm down. I had to stay in control of myself. But then Clara said something that made my blood boil. Honestly, Nate, she said, smirking at me with that tone I hated, I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this. It's just a joke. If you can't handle it, I don't know what to tell you. That was it. The final straw. I stood up from the table, pushing my chair back with more force than I meant to. The table fell silent, and Clara's smile faltered as she looked up at me, clearly not expecting my reaction. Maybe you're right, I said, my voice calm but firm. Maybe I do need to learn to take a joke. So how about this one, our engagement? Clara blinked, clearly not sure if I was serious. What are you talking about? She asked, but I could see the flicker of realization in her eyes. I'm serious, I said. If it's all just one big joke to you, then maybe we need to reconsider this whole thing. The room went still. Clara's friends exchanged glances, and I could see her processing my words. Her face went from confusion to something else. Was it guilt? Regret? I couldn't tell. But I wasn't about to back down. Clara opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't give her a chance. I grabbed my coat, turned, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Clara's texts and calls kept coming throughout the night, but I couldn't bring myself to answer any of them. I knew if I picked up, I'd just end up caving and brushing everything under the rug, like I always did. The thing is, I wasn't just mad about the way she joked about me in front of her friends. No, this went deeper than that. This was about a pattern. A pattern I had been ignoring for months, and honestly, I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep pretending I didn't see it. I didn't sleep much that night, tossing and turning in bed, replaying the entire dinner over and over in my head. The way she'd laughed, the way she'd brushed off my concerns like they were nothing. I had never thought of Clara as cruel, but something in that moment felt different. It wasn't just that she had humiliated me, it was the way she had acted afterward, like nothing had happened. Like I was the one who was out of line for even getting upset. The next day, I couldn't avoid it any longer. Clara came over, standing in front of my door with a look of concern on her face. I had made up my mind that I was going to talk to her, but I wasn't sure where to start. When I opened the door, she immediately tried to pull me into a hug, but I stepped back, holding my ground. Look, I'm sorry for how things went last night, she said, her voice soft. I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't know what I expected, but it wasn't this. Her tone was apologetic, almost too apologetic, like she was trying to smooth things over with a few words. I had seen this side of her before, the side that knew exactly what to say to make me forgive her. But this time, I wasn't sure I was ready to just let it slide. I don't think you really understand why I'm upset, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's not just about the joke. It's about how you always undermine me in front of people, how you act like I'm some kind of joke. Her face faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Nate, you're taking this way too seriously. It was just a joke, and I don't know why you're making such a big deal about it. I couldn't believe it. There it was again, the dismissive tone. She was so quick to brush me off, as if my feelings didn't matter. I felt my heart start to race, and I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. I wasn't going to let her downplay this anymore. No, I said, shaking my head. It's not just a joke. This isn't the first time you've done something like this. You've been making me feel small for months now, ever since we started talking about the wedding. You always act like I don't know what I'm doing, like I'm incapable of handling things. You make me feel like I'm not enough. Clara's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a second, I saw something else behind her gaze, a flicker of irritation, maybe even annoyance. What are you trying to say, Nate? She asked, her voice cool, as if I was the one making this difficult. I stood firm, not backing down. I'm saying that I can't keep doing this. I can't keep feeling like the punchline of every joke you make about me. And I definitely can't keep pretending that this relationship is okay when you clearly don't respect me. She let out a frustrated sigh, crossing her arms over her chest. So now I'm the villain? Is that it? I felt the anger bubbling up inside me. I'm not saying you're the villain, but you've been treating me like I'm nothing. Like everything I do is a joke. And I'm done with it. She stood there for a moment, her arms crossed tightly, her expression hardening. I don't know what you want from me, Nate, she said, her voice colder now. I thought you were someone who could take a joke. I thought you knew how to handle things without getting all worked up over nothing. The words stung more than I wanted to admit, but I didn't let her see how much it affected me. I couldn't. This wasn't just about a few hurtful comments anymore. It was about how she had systematically made me feel like I was unimportant to her. And now, I was starting to see the truth. You know, Clara, I said slowly, it's not just about the jokes. It's about how you've been treating me for months. How you brush off my concerns, how you act like I'm just some guy who doesn't know what he's doing. It's about the fact that you've made it clear that I don't matter to you unless it's convenient for you. Her expression faltered for just a moment, and I could see the hint of guilt in her eyes. But it quickly disappeared, replaced by something else. Something colder. She took a step back, her shoulders stiffening. I didn't realize it was so serious to you, she said, her voice a bit too sharp. But I guess that's your problem, Nate. You take everything so seriously. It's just a joke. You're the one making this into something bigger than it is. It was like a switch had flipped. The warmth, the concern, the affection, everything I had seen in Clara for the past 3 years was gone in an instant. And in its place was someone I didn't even recognize. Someone who didn't care about how I felt, who saw me as a problem to be fixed rather than a partner to be respected. I felt my stomach drop as I realized the depth of the disconnect between us. This wasn't just a small misunderstanding. This was who Clara had become. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I could live with it. I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice trembling, but resolute. I can't keep being with someone who doesn't respect me. I'm done. Her eyes flashed with anger. So, that's it. You're just going to walk away over this? Over a stupid joke? I looked at her, my heart heavy, but I knew I had to say it. If you can't see how much this hurts, then maybe we're not meant to be together. For a long moment, Clara didn't say anything. She just stared at me, her chest rising and falling with each breath. I could tell she wasn't used to me standing up for myself like this. It probably scared her. But that was her problem now, not mine. I guess we're done, then, she said coldly, her voice tinged with a bitterness I hadn't heard before. But don't come crying to me when you realize you've made a huge mistake. She turned and walked out of my apartment, leaving me standing there, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I didn't feel relief, not yet. I felt hollow. I had just ended my engagement, but I knew deep down that I had made the right choice. I wasn't ready to go back to pretending everything was fine. I wasn't going to allow her to keep belittling me, to keep making me feel invisible. The days after Clara left my apartment felt like a blur. I was in shock, but at the same time, there was a sense of clarity I hadn't felt before. Clara's parting words echoed in my mind, the way she'd acted like I was the one being unreasonable. And I knew, deep down, that I was finally seeing her for who she truly was, the person who had slowly worn away at my self-esteem, belittled my efforts, and twisted everything to make it seem like I was the problem. I didn't want to be angry, but I couldn't help it. It was like a switch had flipped in me, and now I was starting to realize just how much she had taken me for granted over the course of our relationship. And that feeling, that sickening realization, stayed with me, festering in the back of my mind as the days went by. I started thinking about the wedding. We'd been planning it for months, and I'd poured so much effort into it. I'd spend hours researching venues, talking to vendors, organizing details, trying to make it everything she wanted. But now, I saw it all through a different lens. It wasn't just a wedding. It was another example of her controlling everything, of her dismissing me at every turn. I could have just walked away, erased myself from her life, and let her figure things out on her own. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wasn't done. No, I had a chance to turn the tables. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about standing up for myself, and for once, making sure that Clara faced the consequences of her actions. I started small. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me unravel, but I didn't want to back down either. The first thing I did was cancel the venue for the wedding. I had booked it months ago, and Clara had been so insistent on the location that I knew she'd be crushed if she found out I had changed it. But I didn't care. The venue wasn't just about the place. It was about her always thinking she could push me around, always assuming I'd just go along with whatever she wanted. When she found out, she wasn't happy. But Clara wasn't just upset. She was furious. And that's when I started to see the cracks in her armor. She sent me a long, angry text. Her words were a mix of frustration and disbelief. You canceled the venue? You can't just do that without asking me. You don't get to make decisions like that on your own. I didn't respond immediately. I knew it would take her a little while to realize the full extent of what I'd done. It wasn't just the venue, it was a shift in control. But when she called me that night, I picked up, knowing this was the moment she would try to guilt-trip me into fixing it. Nate, what is wrong with you? Clara's voice was tight, filled with anger. You can't just make changes like that. This is our wedding, not just yours. Don't you care about what I want? I could feel my heart pounding as I tried to keep my cool. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. Clara, I do care about what you want, I said, my voice steady. But it's clear that you only care about what you want. This whole thing, it's been about you calling the shots like I don't even matter. There was a silence on the other end of the line. For a moment, I thought she might actually hear me. But when she spoke again, her tone was dripping with disdain. You're being ridiculous, she said, her words sharp. This isn't about control, it's about planning a wedding. We're supposed to be a team, but you're acting like a child throwing a tantrum. Maybe you're just not ready for this. Her words hit me like a slap in the face, but I refused to let her see that. Maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe I'm not ready to be in a relationship where I'm constantly made to feel small. She scoffed, clearly trying to maintain control of the situation. Oh, please, Nate. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Just fix the venue, and let's move on. I'm not going to keep having this conversation. I knew she thought she had the upper hand, but I was done giving her that power. No, Clara, I'm not going to fix it. If you want this wedding to happen, you're going to have to start taking me seriously. I'm done letting you treat me like I don't matter. Clara didn't respond immediately, and I could tell she was trying to figure out how to regain control. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. You really think this is going to get you what you want? You think if you cancel the wedding, I'll come crawling back to you? Think again. I almost laughed at how predictable she was. It was always the same with Clara. She thought she could control everything, manipulate every situation to get what she wanted. But I was done being her pawn. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of watching me beg for forgiveness. A few days passed, and Clara's attempts to smooth things over became more desperate. She called, texted, even showed up at my apartment unannounced. But I refused to engage. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into fixing things just because she wanted everything to go her way. And I could tell it was driving her crazy. Then came the next part of my plan. I knew Clara was obsessed with the wedding dress. She'd been talking about it for months, how she had a specific vision for it, how it had to be perfect. So I did something that I knew would get under her skin. I called the boutique she'd been working with and canceled her appointment. The moment she found out, she texted me, her anger palpable. You can't be serious. You canceled my dress fitting? After everything we've been through, this is how you want to handle things. I almost smiled as I typed my response. You're right. It's not the dress. It's about me not letting you walk all over me anymore. Maybe it's time for you to start taking responsibility for your actions. I knew that canceling the dress fitting would be a massive blow to her, but it felt good. Finally, I was the one in control. Clara didn't realize it yet, but I had shifted the power dynamic in our relationship. I wasn't just some guy who could be walked all over. I wasn't going to let her think I'd simply fall back into line because she said so. The next time we saw each other in person, it was inevitable that the tension would be unbearable. Clara tried to act like nothing had changed, but I could see it in her eyes. She was unraveling. I was waiting for her to make the first move, to try to guilt-trip me or manipulate me like she had before. But this time, I wasn't going to play along. You know what's funny? I said, looking at her coldly. You've spent our entire relationship making me feel like I'm not enough, like I'm the one who has to prove myself. But look at you now. The wedding's falling apart, and I'm not the one who's going to fix it. Her face twisted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. You're insane, Nate. You're ruining everything. I thought you were better than this. I could hear the panic in her voice, but I didn't care. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Maybe that's something you should try. Clara glared at me, her eyes narrowed with fury. You really think this is some kind of revenge, don't you? Well, good luck. You're going to regret this. A week passed after that confrontation. Clara's attempts to fix things were growing more desperate, but I stood firm, refusing to back down. The control she once had over me, the power she used to make me feel small and insignificant, was slipping away. It wasn't that I wanted to hurt her, but I needed her to see the damage she'd caused. I needed her to understand how much I had been enduring, how much she had chipped away at me for so long. One evening, she showed up at my apartment, uninvited, as expected. Her face was tired, but the anger still lingered in her eyes. But there was something else there too, a hint of fear. She had started to realize that I wasn't playing around anymore, that I wasn't going to fix things just because she demanded it. Can we talk? She asked, her voice strained. I hesitated before letting her in. I wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet. But I needed closure. I needed to hear her admit that she was wrong. What is there to talk about, Clara? I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. You don't seem to understand that it's not about the wedding anymore. It's about how you've treated me, how you've treated everyone. You've been manipulating me, making me feel like I don't matter. But I'm done with it. She stared at me, searching my face for any hint of the man she once knew. The man who would have fallen back into her arms after everything she had put me through. But I wasn't that man anymore. I had changed, whether she realized it or not. I never meant to make you feel like that, Nate, Clara said quietly, her voice cracking. I thought I was doing what was best for us. But I see now that I've been wrong. I've taken you for granted. I'm sorry. It wasn't an easy apology to accept. She was clearly struggling, but I couldn't ignore the fact that for years, I had let her get away with this. She was sorry now, but how many times had she apologized before, only to repeat the same mistakes? I'm glad you're finally admitting it, I said, crossing my arms. But it doesn't change the fact that this relationship has been toxic for me. I can't just forget what you've done. Clara's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel the guilt I thought I would. For the first time in our relationship, I felt a sense of relief. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I had finally let go. I never meant for things to get this bad, she said, her voice softer now. I don't know what happened to us. But I cut her off. You just wanted everything to be your way, Clara. You always did. You've been controlling, dismissive, and manipulative. And I've let you. But not anymore. There was silence between us as I let the weight of my words sink in. Clara didn't respond. She just stood there, her shoulders slumped, as if the fight had left her. The woman who had once been so full of confidence, so sure she could have whatever she wanted, now seemed small. It was strange, in a way, seeing her like this. But it also felt like justice. I'm done, Clara, I said, my voice steady but final. I'm calling off the wedding. We're done. She didn't argue this time. There was no more trying to manipulate me or convince me that we could work things out. She nodded, wiping her eyes, and turned to leave. But before she walked out the door, she paused and turned back to look at me. I'll always care about you, Nate, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The weight of it all had lifted, and I finally felt like I could breathe again. The aftermath was strange. At first, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I wasn't dealing with the constant manipulation, the subtle jabs, or the passive-aggressive comments anymore. But I was still left with a lot of confusion. I had loved Clara once. I had cared about her, believed in the future we were building together. But now, looking back, I saw everything through a different lens. The wedding, our life together, had all been based on her terms. And I had let it happen because I was too afraid to speak up. But not anymore. As the weeks passed, the reality of my decision started to sink in. I wasn't the same person I had been when Clara and I first started dating. I had grown stronger, more self-assured. I wasn't looking for validation from someone who only saw me as a tool to manipulate and control. Clara did eventually try to reach out again, her usual mix of guilt and demands wrapped up in carefully worded texts and calls. But I ignored every one of them. She had made it clear that I was never enough, that I was always secondary to her ambitions. Now, I made it clear that I wasn't going to be dragged back into her world of games. The weeks turned into months, and I moved on with my life. I focused on my career, on rebuilding the confidence I had lost in myself. I took the lessons I had learned from my time with Clara and applied them to every part of my life. No longer would I let someone walk all over me. No longer would I let someone dismiss my feelings because they didn't fit into their world. As for Clara, she eventually found her way into another relationship, someone who would put up with her manipulative behavior. I didn't keep track of her, though. I didn't need to. I had let go of that part of my life, and I was better for it. There was no more drama, no more games. In the end, I was the one who came out on top, not because of some petty revenge, but because I had the strength to walk away. I had learned that self-respect wasn't something I could get from anyone else. It had to come from within, and that's exactly what I had found.